Hi everyone, it's Ross Anderson from the Australian and New Zealand Boutique Wine Show with edition number 4 of Meet the Boutique Winemakers. This is of course the trophy edition, and this is our second show of the day. So we're going from southern tip of Tasmania right across to WA for this interview. But as many of you know, we recently ran the 2020 ANZ Boutique Wine Show. Given all the challenges of 2020, we still managed to put a great show on, and we had over 900 participants, which was amazing considering all the bits and pieces that were against us for the year. The ANZ Boutique Wine Show is celebrating 25 years of supporting the small winemakers of Australia and New Zealand. And as always, these interviews are aimed at informing, educating and entertaining you on all things boutique and sharing the stories and the personalities behind the brands which are the heartbeat of Australia and New Zealand. Now on to today's interview, or the second interview for today. This estate hails from the Perth Hills area near Jarrahdale in Western Australia and has close connections with the Geograph region in Western Australia. The wine estate in its current format was established in 1996, but the farm has a rich history dating back more than 150 years. A state-of-the-art winery was built in 2001, which includes a barrel hall, a tasting room and a restaurant. This estate was named Winery of the Year in 2019 by Ray Jordan, Best Western Australia Producer under 300 tonnes, and Best Western Australia Producer and Best Producer at the Perth Royal Wine Show in 2018. Miss Adair Davies was recently promoted to Senior Winemaker and is leading the way for female winemakers in Australia. I'm delighted to have Adair joining us this morning. I mean, she's in Perth, so I do apologise, but welcome, Adair. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. It's early morning there. I'm hoping that you've had 1 or 2 coffees at least.
Yes, I have had a couple of coffees.
Fantastic. So it's 9 a.m. in Perth, it's 12 o'clock in Sydney. Adair, congratulations firstly on your promotion to Senior Winemaker.
Thank you so much. It's been a fantastic promotion for me.
And when did that happen? It must have been quite recently?
Yeah, about 3.5 months ago. So all very new still. It's a bit of a whirlwind, but I'm very much looking forward to vintage coming and just being able to put my stamp on it.
Fantastic. And how long have you been working at Millbrook?
I've been here for just over 5 years.
Right, okay. And you've had a fairly solid hand in crafting the styles that are coming out of Millbrook, I'm assuming?
Yes, me and the previous senior winemaker here, we had a very close relationship and had great fun making lots of different styles of wine here, including the trophy winner at this show.
Fantastic. Now, with lockdown, I'm asking everyone, did you guys do anything different to change your operations?
In the wine, it was chaotic. In the winery, not really too much changed. I ended up getting a cold, so I missed the end of vintage. I went home and the senior winemaker at the time and the 2 casuals finished it off. And then with all the restaurant staff and Cellar Door staff, all the full-timers, obviously they couldn't work in the restaurant. So we found them work. Some of them helped us out in the winery. Others did a lot of weeding around the property.
Oh, okay. And did you use that lockdown time to do anything new, to do any planning for 2021, or what did you do? Anything different?
Not really. Had some slightly longer lunches with all the staff.
Perfect. And from your perspective, I mean, if you have a beautiful cellar door and a barrel room and a tasting venue, you'd be accustomed to having a lot of people through, and that would have dried up. But now that things are getting a little bit softer and restrictions are easing, do you think consumer confidence is returning?
Absolutely. I mean, here in WA, we're in our own little safety bubble. We've actually been, since we're very open, we've been the busiest we've ever been in the restaurant in Cellar Door. It's been fantastic seeing so many people come out.
Fantastic. But let's get on to the diamond in this beautiful crown that is Millbrook. Congratulations. Millbrook, with the Single Vineyard Chardonnay 2019, this bad boy here, got to get it into the camera. This took out the trophy for Chardonnay class at the 2020 Boutique Wine Show. I think there was, from memory, just under 100 top flight Chardonnays competing. So massive achievement. You must be happy with this.
Very, very happy. It was so good to have that result.
Now, Millbrook has this track record. I think 2018 show you won the trophy for Red Blend with your GSM. I think that was right.
Yeah, I think so.
Tell us a bit about the Chardonnay. What can you tell us? So if you were behind the cellar door and a punter walked in, you poured this, what would you tell them? What's the story behind the wine?
Oh, there's a lot of love goes into that wine. The fruit is hand-picked from the Talisman Vineyard down in the Geograph, and the vineyard is incredible. You're in the middle of a forest, and to get up there, you need a full drive. You come up through the forest over the corner and see this beautiful rolling valley. They've been known to actually even get frost in December, so you get some really nice cool climate coming through there, which helps with the Chardonnay. But when it gets to the winery, it's all kept in the tiny little fruit crates, and it's hand tipped and then whole bunch pressed, and then we just wild ferment it and have some fun with oak.
Sounds awesome. And how would you describe the flavour profile?
I always see this one as the more masculine of the two Chardonnays that we make. I get a lot of really sort of citrus characters coming through, and you get some really cool funky sulfides from some of the toasty oak that we use and a little bit of ferment playing around. It's got incredible length and just has just really good acid drive.
Do you think Millbrook has a certain DNA signature in its flavour profile, as opposed to other people?
I'm not really sure. Well, I'll say yes.
Fair enough. It's like when I taste certain wines, say for example, obviously I'm from South Africa, but that's many, many years ago. Whenever I taste a South African wine, there's a certain DNA profile that I can identify with as tasting of Africa. There's this earthiness to the wines, and as the general commentary goes is Western Australia always has good vintages. Sometimes they have great vintages, so pretty bankable from a wine perspective. And the wines are always beautifully made, lots of structure, and so I just wondered whether there was something that specifically stood out on the Single Vineyard Chardonnay versus the limited release, in your opinion.
To be honest, that actually comes from the vineyard character. They're made in a very similar way. They have different oak, and we do play around with some more malo in the limited release style, but the main differences actually come from the vineyard site choices.
Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us about your story and your journey in wine to date. How did you get the wine bug? How did it happen? What's the story?
I started in hospitality, and I was working in fine dining and got to try lots of yummy wines, and did a wine appreciation course, and then finally got sick of dealing with customers. So decided I wanted to get into try out winemaking. And I studied through Curtin University here in WA. So went and lived down in Margaret River for a couple of years. Loved it. I did my first vintage at Lewin Estate, and then my husband's based in the city, so I worked at Horton up in the Swan Valley for a few years before moving out to Millbrook.
And have you done any overseas vintages or anything like that?
Not yet. I really wanted to, but I have a little toddler at the moment, so traveling overseas, and COVID isn't really an option just at this moment.
When did you graduate? Is it a recent graduation or a couple of years ago?
2012, so that's 8 years ago.
Good. And if you hadn't done wine, what was your other option?
Probably find something that would just make me really rich. I don't know, or a food taster.
Instagrammer. Tell us a little bit about Millbrook itself, the estate. Now, I've done a bit of research. Chestnut Farm, is that the original lot or the original plantation? It's 150 years old plus, originally planted to fruit, and some vines were planted in 1865. And then in 96, Millbrook, as it is now known, or was bought, and Millbrook was established as the winery. What's the crossover there? Have I got that history accurate?
Yeah, That's correct. Peter and Lee Fogarty bought the property in the mid-90s, and the first plantings were in 1996. The orchard itself actually still remains. They have a huge amount of fruit. There's avocados, oranges, mandarins, pears, so much more. And that is all still in existence, and we actually still use all of that fruit in the restaurant. So they've taken the orchard theme for the restaurant more so, and have planted their own veggie garden. And the whole point of the restaurant is we don't buy fruit and vegetables. We grow everything that we use. So it's a very seasonal menu. From the winery perspective, so we've got 8 hectares under vine. The site was chosen because of the elevation. Peter found this spot, and it's the same elevation as some of his favourite parts of the Rhone Valley. And he planted Shiraz and Viognier here. So they grow very, very well on this site. And we've just recently grafted over some of the blocks to Grenache and Mourvedre. So we'll have our first vintage of that this coming year. And it will be awesome to just play around with those varieties and see how the fruit grows on the estate.
And what are the unique features of Millbrook? I'm just going to pop up the maps here so everyone can have a look. There is Millbrook, slap bang in the middle with the blue pin, and you see it's. You were saying it's about 65 k's away from Perth.
Yeah, it takes about an hour to drive here. Yeah.
And then if we zoom in on that, you'll start to see that you're not all that far away from Fremantle either, and Rockingham. And then if we zoom in even further, this was the bit that got me. You're stuck slap bang in the middle of a conservation park. So is it bordered on pretty much all 4 corners by a conservation park?
Pretty much, yeah. So there's one little section which is the Jarrahdale Township, and then the other 3 sides are national forest. So this is the Jarrah Forest, and they used to use it for logging back in the day, and that's what the town existed for. And our property does extend pretty much all the way down to the Serpentine River, which is one of the main water sources for Perth.
And so you were saying, well, actually, I'll go to that in a second, but is there any advantage of being in your location and surrounded by that forest? Is there any disease breaks? Is there any wind breaks? Is there any elevational perspectives that benefit the vineyards?
Yes, the vineyard is very elevated. There's one part of the block that the vineyard crew call Heartbreak Hill. It's so steep. You take one step up and slide back about half a step. The site itself is very gravelly and a lot of clay in the soil as well. So there's really good drainage, but also natural water retention, which has been really helpful for the vines because we don't have to water too much over summer.
Do you have wildlife? Any issues with wildlife, or do you just have lots of visitors?
Unfortunately, kangaroos are our biggest pain here, but we have got a big kangaroo fence up, so they don't get into the vineyard anymore.
What did they do? Just go nuts in the fruit? Or?
Decimate it. They love the leaves. They love the fruit.
All right, I want to talk about this funky one. I hadn't seen this one until this show. So this is the limited release Chardonnay. What's the story with this one? Why limited? Is it some project that you're working on that's grown a little bit, or what's the story behind it?
The limited release, we've actually made it for quite a few years. It's just recently had a facelift with a new label, but it's just limited in the fact that the vineyard is quite small. So it started off with one of our own vineyards out in Pemberton, but as we've explored the geographic region, we've actually found another vineyard a little bit further away than the Single Vineyard vineyard at Talisman. This one's 52 stones. And it's just, it's hit and miss as to how much fruit we'll actually get every year, just with the demand of that vineyard.
And one thing I have noticed when I was reading through bits and pieces about Millbrook, alternate varieties seem to be something that you work with and you're pushing, and I love that. And I've asked this question to everyone at the moment, and I'll ask it to you, but the context is with climate change on the mainland, we've noticed increasing entries of Grenache, Mataro, Italian varieties, more heat-resistant varieties. And then I was talking to the guys in Tassie, and they were saying we're starting to see potential for cool climate Syrah plantations increasing there with their climatic difference. What's the story over in your neck of the woods? I mean, you guys champion Vimentino, Fiano, Tempranillo, Viognier. Is there a policy around this, or is it a lot of experimentation, or you've got a bit of a track record?
I think it was a bit of experimentation to begin with. The Grenache is only new on our estate, but Grenache just grows really well in warm climates, and WA is getting hotter and hotter, especially here in the Perth Hills. Like, we do get 40-degree days in summer, so we need some varieties that can just withstand that heat. And we have just been finding that even though they do go through that really hot phase in summer, they don't lose all their fruit characters and they don't shrivel up as quickly. So we're just finding they're just definitely more sustainable than what used to be classified as the traditional varieties like your Cabernet.
And do you think there's one that's going to really stand out in the red and the white? Like, one is performing better than the others at the moment?
From our sales trend, definitely the GSM. So Grenache is definitely picked up. Everybody loves it. And from a winemaking perspective, I love playing with it. It's a bit of a challenge. It's not the easiest one to make. And from the whites, the Fiano actually is going gangbusters at the moment. It's people are loving it, and we're in WA. It's actually we're trying to get some more plantings or grafts happening, just so there's more of it available.
So I'm popping up the Vimentino on screen now, which picked up the silver medal. Tell us a little bit about this wine. Is it made in larger volumes, smaller volumes, and tell us a bit about the flavour profile on this one.
So this one is just very neutral to begin with. It's really, it's a great summer drinking wine. So you get beautiful hints of citrus coming through. I also get some blossom notes on it, sort of white blossom. But I love Vimentino because it is a very easy drinking wine when it's young, but it ages like Riesling. So it's got longevity on it. We source this from a vineyard in Harvey. And so it's still part of the geographic region, but it's off the hills. It's down on the flats. And the first time I made it was incredible. I've never seen Vimentino before, and the bunches came in. They were the size of Tempranillo. They were huge. So you get lots of juice from it. We only have the one vineyard at the moment, so we only get about 6 tonne at the best of years. And we're just happy to keep it at that volume for now.
Just on that note, you mentioned it ages like Riesling. What characters does it pick up? I mean, does it go from clean, crisp, bright wine to a bit of the Caro characters, or how does that work?
Yeah, it does get those Fuseli characters that come through.
Fantastic. So if we were to sum up Millbrook, what would you say are the flagship varieties at the moment?
At the moment, well, our flagship's always going to be our Estate Viognier and our Estate Shiraz Viognier. Or definitely the GSM and the Fiano are taking off in popularity here, and people do know us for our GSM now.
Fantastic. Now, as I was saying in the introduction, Millbrook has a strong track record of success, especially in the Boutique Wine Show. What do you think it is that sets you apart from other vineyards in your area and in your region? Is there something special that you're doing? Is there some uniqueness to not only your site, but where you're sourcing some of your fruit from? Or what is that thing that's setting you apart?
I don't know. I mean, everyone will probably say the same thing. It's the passion. We have a huge amount of passion for the wines that we make here. We like to experiment with some different styles and some different grape varieties, going down that alternate route. And we've really just leapt into that geographic wine region. We've found so many incredible varieties that grow down there that we've just trying to get as much as possible for ourselves up in the Perth Hills. And I don't know, it's probably just, we're only a 200-tonne winery, so we do, it's smaller batches made with care, and we get to the pleasure of actually having a lot of hand-picked fruit rather than machine harvested.
It sounds like a combination of tradition and innovation to me with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is what it's about. I mean, if we have a look at the Cellar Door, why wouldn't you want to work there? Why wouldn't you want to go there? I mean, that has got to be one of the most spectacular cellar doors I've seen. It reminds me of Maggie Beer's setup in the Barossa, even though that's just a little farmstead. But this is sensational. Is that a man-made lake or a dam?
It was a natural stream, but it's been man-made to be that big, and it is beautiful. And the trees that you can see in the garden, they're actually orchard trees. They're plum trees that were transplanted when the building was made from down in the orchard to up in the garden.
Fantastic. And here's another shot which I love, just on the aspect there, picking up bits and pieces through the vines. So yeah, you're on an absolute beautiful place. Adair, let's talk about this bad boy, this Shiraz 2018. So you're saying flagships are Shiraz and Viognier?
Yes, yeah, we make a lot of Shiraz here. This particular one actually comes from Franklin River. It's a little vineyard down there, and we've been very lucky to find this Shiraz because it's just incredible. So much flavour, just really nice and juicy, works with a little bit of whole bunch, can be just completely traditional made, and you can just play around with a little bit of oak in it. But
and the flavour
very
profile?
easy drinking.
Flavour profile for the punter? What would you say? Is it? I mean, it wouldn't be a traditional like South Australian heavy Barossa Shiraz, but what would it be?
No, much lighter than a South Australian style. It has that beautiful sort of Syrah character, so you get that white pepper flavour coming through, and some really nice cherry characters as well.
Let's talk about your favourite. GSM 2019, and this also picked up silver. What's the flavour profile looking like here? Is it that traditional Rhone style, dry and savoury, or have you got a bit more fruit driven?
It's actually quite fruit driven. It does have some nice squeegees like tannins, but we try and make it just nice and juicy, very slurpable.
Fantastic. I think that's one of the reasons it won the trophy in 2018. I should actually pull up the information and see what the judges had to say. Adair, is there anything you can share with us about future plans at Millbrook? Maybe, I mean, you've got a Cellar Door. Are you planning on expanding on Cellar Door tourism once this 2020 issue is over? What's the story? Online presence, wine clubs? What are you guys looking at doing that you can potentially share with us?
I think we already are exploring a lot of those pathways already. We don't have a lot of the online presence like with sort of videos. We did do a little bit of that over the COVID period. But our Cellar Door is actually going, and restaurant, they're very busy at the moment, and sales have increased. So I don't think they're planning on changing too much.
And tell us about your favourite wine memory. It doesn't have to be a Millbrook memory. It can be when you were working in your fine dining, or it can be anything. But what's your favourite wine memory, or one that at least comes to mind? It might not be favourite, but maybe epic.
I don't know. I think it's hard. The one memory that sticks in my mind is actually a Millbrook one, and it was that 2017 Single Vineyard Chardonnay, which took out heaps of trophies in 2018. I'd been to a wedding the night before, and I'd had about 3 hours sleep, and my
Here we go.
at the time, I was designated driver. I wasn't hungover. My boss at the time had actually pulled a back muscle, and we were expecting about 2.5 ton of this fruit, and it arrived as 5 ton. And we've got a little press that can only hold 3 ton of whole bunch, and it was all hand tipped. And it was a Saturday, and it was just a full on day. And then after the end of it, we're like, "Yay, it's over!" And one of the clients we make wine for arrived with 2 ton of muskets that had to be hand unloaded off the back of his ute. So it was a day to remember.
Oh, grief. And tell me, when you're at home, when you're getting ready to go to work, as you did this morning, bright and early, and you're in the car, what's playing on the radio? What's your music taste? What do you listen to?
I was dreading this question. I have the worst music
Ask
knowledge.
Everyone this question.
I listen to whatever's actually. I've been listening to audiobooks in the car, but my assistant winemaker is in charge of music at the moment. So.
And would there be a specific style you listen to, or are you just generic?
Probably, but I don't know. Probably more of the indie style, I think, and all folk.
I keep referencing him because it amazes me. Rob Mack, who runs Aphelion Wines in McLaren Vale, he judges with us, and he listens to music when he's judging, like to block out all the noise. And I just ask everyone this question. I said to him, "What are you listening to?" And he goes, Tool, heavy rock. And he works in the winery, he blends, and he keeps saying, "I listen to stoner rock or whatever's going to get me in the right mood for whatever I need to do. So I ask everyone that now. It's his fault. He's probably going to watch this, so thanks, Rob, for that. Adair,
you do need some very upbeat music in the winery.
Yeah, some techno house or something, which is never going to happen with me. There you go. Where can we buy these wines? Where should we tell people to go to? I've got the website at the bottom. Is that the best place to go for it?
Website, yes. And if you become a member, you get a 10% discount. But we also are stocked at Dan Murphy's, some BWS's, and also some Thirsty Camels throughout Australia.
Excellent. Well, that's it for now. We're going to wrap it. So thank you so much for taking the time out and getting up super early. We had to navigate the 3-hour time zones. I was surprised you said, yeah, I'll do that one. So there we go. And it's been great talking to you, and congratulations again on your role as senior winemaker, and congratulations to Millbrook for this beautiful wine. And that's it for now, but don't go anywhere. I'm just going to wrap up. So I'll put you on mute for a sec.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, that's it for episode number 4. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. We've got plenty of interviews lined up with all the trophy winners from the 2020 ANZ Boutique Wine Show. Till next time, stay safe.